Welcome to another lecture on ROS2. Today we are going to cover our tutorial called using RQT console to view logs. So what are logs? Basically, logs they give you observability into the software application. So as a developer, if you're developing some application, you would be defining what kind of messages you want to give to the user to let them know what the application is actually doing, or more specifically, how is it behaving. So the logs, they contain information about the usage, the activities, and operations within a software application. There are many different levels of logging because when you create logs or this application generates logs, it is going to be creating a lot of text. So there are different levels of logging. So let's look at those. So here, these are pretty much standard for and no matter what application software you're developing. So this is not specific to ROS, this is just standard software stuff. So we have logs of different severity. So for example, the most severe is fatal. So let's say the application, something really bad happened, the application has crashed. So your software application will issue some log statement, and that log statement will tell you like why it crashed. It might say some exit code or something that will give an indication of why the application crashed. So that is the most severe type of log, and we call it fatal. Then going down the list, you have error, warn, debug, info, and then there is also in some cases verbose, which is even more like the name suggests, verbose than the debug. So going down the list, the verbose or debug is going to contain the most information, but not all of that information concerns like the errors in the system. So fatal is the least verbosity, but most severe failure, for the most severe failure that the application can have. And then these, as you go down, so you increase the verbosity, so you will get more text, more information, more observability, but some of that does not really imply any failure in the system. So these are log levels. Now let's go back to how we can use RQT console to view logs. Now logs are used to debug, and we have already seen the logs before in the ROS2, but today we are going to specifically just look at viewing them in the RQT console and using them to debug if something went wrong. Okay, so let's now go back and we're going to again play with the turtle sim package. So we're going to start two nodes from the turtle sim. So the first one was turtle sim node, which will bring up the simulator. So I'm just going to make sure it's on the top, and then we're going to start the second node, which allows us to take the input from the keyboard. So we're going to say ROS2 run, package name, and then the executable name. Okay, so now we can start to do a few things here. So like we have done previously, we can move this turtle around with the keys. We can use these keys to rotate the turtle. So let's just go ahead and do some operations. So basically what we are looking for here is that as you do perform some actions, these two nodes are engaged, and you will see some messages printed on the terminal. You can actually already see that. So for example, it says info, and then you have a message that says starting turtle sim and all of that. So this is actually a log line. This is at the info level. But as we start to do more things, maybe we are going to do something a little bit more severe, and then you will see a different kind of log. So let's do it. So I'm just going to move this turtle, and then I'm going to let it hit the wall. Okay, and then okay. All right, so we see a lot of messages here. So these are all of the messages that are issued by the application, which in this case is the TurtleSim node. And it's telling you what's happening in the application. So here, the first one is just the info, nothing, I mean, it's important, but it's just saying that everything is functioning normally, that you have started the TurtleSim node, and then you have a turtle spawned. But then as I start to do something funky, like in this case, I moved the robot, but then I let it hit the wall, and it's giving me a warning that, hey, that your turtle has hit the wall. And then going down, then I moved it a little away from the wall, but I rotated it, which means I performed some action, and then it's still again giving you an information that your rotation goal was completed successfully. So this is just to show you. But looking at all the logs here can be a little bit difficult, because as you can see, there is a lot of text generated in a short amount of time. So in ROS, you have a GUI that you can use to analyze logs. So let's just look at, let's just bring that up. Qt console. So RQT is a package, and RQT console is a package, and then there's RQT console and executable inside the package. So if we run this, we should see a window. Okay, let's minimize it for a second. Okay, so right now we don't see anything here, because everything that we generated so far was before we brought up this GUI. So let's try to run this turtle around a little bit more, and we will see the messages come up here. Okay, so I'm going to move this here so that we can see the messages being printed here, but then also same messages being printed here. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to let it hit the wall. So as you see that all the messages, as soon as it hit the wall, all the messages that you see here, you see the same messages here. And let's just rotate it. Okay, so we did a bunch of stuff, and then we see all the messages are shown here as well. So starting from the first one, and then you see the latest message here. Okay, so that's just showing the messages that are in the terminal, and you see the same messages here. So why do we need this RQT console? Is because it makes analyzing the logs a little bit easier. So if we go here, expand this, it has two other windows. So it says exclude messages, highlight messages. So this is all of it. But if you want to apply filters, let's say you only want to see messages that are worn. That are of severity worn, and then you can apply that filter here, and that way you can limit all the noise that is coming from the info severity. So let's do that. So we will just say, you can define all of these, like if you want to look for messages from a specific node, or it contains specific verbiage. So in this case, we will just apply a simple filter that says with severity. So now you can tell which severities you want to see. So in this case, we want to see all the worn, for example. So if I see here, oh, I see. So here, like whatever you select, you basically says exclude the messages with that severity. So obviously, because we said exclude the warn, we don't see any warn, but we see all the ones with the info. Similarly, like if I say show me only info, you would see, sorry, exclude info, then you would see messages only with the severity other than info. So in this case, since most of the messages I believe are that have been generated so far are of info or warn, so if you apply both, then you would see nothing, because those were the only two severity of the logs that we had generated so far. So that's how this is useful. And then the other thing is, you can apply filters here as well. So let's say you are comparing, let's say you're comparing certain things, so you can apply a filter as not a filter really, but yeah, you can highlight certain things. So let's say you want to, again, we're just going to play with this severity because that's the easy one. So if I say highlight the messages with warn, so then it has highlighted all the messages, or rather it has grayed out the ones that are not warn, and the ones that are warn have been highlighted. So it just makes debugging a little easier. That's all. And then the other things that you want to know is make sure that this here is set to is not set to stop, because otherwise you wouldn't see anything. And then the other thing is that you can also upload the file. If you have a file, local file that contains the logs, you can also upload that, and then you can also save these log messages to a file on your machine. What else? So the other thing, maybe not so important right now, but when we write logs, so this is true for all the software applications, nothing specific to ROS. When we write logs, we also have a timestamp that is appended to the log line. So if we go back here, you see there is a timestamp, and then you have a message basically. So you have the severity level called out, then you have a timestamp, and then you have a message itself. So timestamps are important because they help us understand what happened when we are trying to root cause something. Yep, so that's all for today. So this, we are just trying to get understanding of what all capabilities exist in ROS2, but we will really start to understand the advantage or use of them when we are building our own applications, and where we have to debug things. So that's when the real advantage of all of these will come into play. For now, that's all for today's lecture. In the next lecture, we are going to learn about launching nodes. So basically, there's something called launch files in ROS. So that's what we're going to learn about next. But before I end this video, I actually forgot to mention one thing. So if you go to this particular page for the logging that we were just going through, you will see here that you can actually change the default log level for an application. So here they are saying you can use this remapping to change the log level. So right now we were using whatever the default was set to, and here they're saying you actually have the ability to change the log level. So in this case, they're using this command called along with the run, and then you're changing the ROS arguments, and they want to change the argument log level to warn. So if you want to read more about it, I actually will paste the links of these two pages here, and this is going to tell you how can you change the default parameters. So in specific example that we just saw, if we want to change the log level, we can do so, but there are other things that you can change. And these two pages contain more information on how to change default parameters. So I'll paste the link. And that's all for today's lecture.